Welcome to Flashpoints. I'm Jeff Pegues, and I'm joined by CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate. Thanks for being with us once again.
Great to be with you, Jeff.
Last week, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI issued a joint bulletin warning of, quote, the continuing trend of Western youth being inspired by ISIL or ISIS to travel to Syria to participate in conflict. DHS sources tell us that law enforcement remains concerned about the recruitment efforts made by ISIS, particularly through social media. So law enforcement in this country wants local law enforcement officials, police and communities to be aware of this, to be vigilant, and they also want the public to be vigilant as well, because what they are seeing is this trend of teenagers showing signs of being sympathetic to ISIS's message.
That's exactly right, and they realize that this is affecting Western teenagers in particular. You've seen cases, for example, the 3 girls out of Colorado who were making their way to Syria, where the FBI intervened. You've had this case out of London where the 3 teenage girls made their way into Syria, and others who have traveled through Turkey into the conflict zone to join ISIS in Syria. And I think that the concern is that you have a message that is proving romantic, heroic, and alluring to a swath of the Western population that's dangerous. And so this bulletin and the messages that are out there are really messages not just to local law enforcement, but to communities and to families to be on the lookout and to be vigilant about the potential that their youth are being drawn like the Pied Piper to this movement in the Middle East.
Is this something that law enforcement in this country is just becoming hip to, or is this a message that ISIS has evolved into a more appealing message for Western youth?
I think it's a combination of factors, Jeff. It's not that it's new to law enforcement. Of course, Al-Qaeda has been trying to recruit Westerners for years. There's been messaging from the Al-Qaeda affiliates that has evolved in terms of its efficiency and its modalities over time. And so that's not new. What's new here is that you have the Islamic State using all forms of media and outreach, to include peer-to-peer social media outreach to the youth, to try to draw them to the fight. In addition, the Islamic State holds romantic appeal, especially in violent jihadi circles. That is to say, the very notion that this is a group that has established what looks like the beginnings of the Islamic Caliphate, something that's been part of the imaginings of these groups and these individuals for a long time, actually adds romantic appeal to the ideology and to the movement. And so this isn't just about going to fight apostates or to fight oppressors or occupiers. This is about a broader project, establishment of an Islamic caliphate. That holds some allure to those who want to see a pure form of Islam and are willing to draw themselves into this heroic and romantic cause.
We're sort of, I guess we're about 2 weeks out from this White House summit, trying to counter this message from ISIS. Have there been any gains there? Have you noticed any policy changes online?
There's certainly a commitment for more resources to attack the narrative online, to try to undercut the narrative through credible voices, to amplify networks that are out there that are trying to counter the movement in different ways. I have seen sort of offline a lot of activity that has come out of the summit. The real question, though, Jeff, is does it matter, right? Does it really affect the allure of this message? And are we able to inoculate youth and those who would otherwise be susceptible to the message from the allure of what the ISIS folks and the propagandists are selling? This is a challenge because even among non-Muslims, you see some polling numbers, for example, in France, where there is an allure to the Islamic State, an allure to the romanticism of what they're building. And I think that's part of the ideological battle, in addition to the theology that's hard to combat. And so we'll just have to see what comes out of that summit, but I don't think it's going to be immediate, and I think we're going to be stuck with this problem for some time.
Yeah, and law enforcement that we've spoken with have indicated that they realize this is not a short-term fix, this is a long-term deal.
It's a generational struggle, there's no question.
Juan Zarate, I'm Jeff Pegues, and that's Flashpoints.